All right, welcome to Urban Economics. So we're going to start with just like an introductory lecture looking at all the interesting things about cities, all the weird things that happen, all the weird facts about cities. So first of all, just what is urban economics? Well, we're really studying the characteristics of urban areas. And if you get really into urban, you'll need to know some kind of like GIS type software, like learning how to do maps and kind of marry data with geography. All right, and so there really is a lot of geography when you get deep into urban economics. So it's a mixture of these kind of two fields of geography um, and economics. So our first observation, which may seem obvious, is that the majority of our economic activity is concentrated in cities. People are there, and all the economic activity is there. Which okay may seem obvious, but this was not always the case. If you go back before the Industrial Revolution, everything is concentrated in the rural areas. It's a agrarian based economy, and that's really what was going on. And so it's kind of actually interesting. It reflects how productive our agricultural sector is, in that we can have all this concentration of people in cities, and this is where all the economic action is. You think, well, why is this? Like, what is the advantage that the city has to offer? Why is it that people need to be near each other to produce this economic activity? And why do they want to be near each other? And furthermore, this trend is just increasing. So this is the percent of the US population that lives in urban areas, and you can see that it's just going up and up and up. Okay. And then this is the urban population at urban population as a percentage of the population. So what percentage of the population lives in an urban area? If I were to select somebody at random, what is the chance that they would live in an urban area? And again, you can see these trends going upwards and upwards. Where North America would be this one. So you can see North America, and this is just predicted to grow and grow and grow. Okay. If we have this kind of graph where the higher the peak, the more GDP per capita in a place. And no, sorry, this is the total value of output. So this is the total value of what's produced. And so again, you can see this is really concentrated in cities. You have the northeastern corridor here, Chicago, which is here, Atlanta down here, the Texas Triangle here, and then of course your Southern California, Northern California, and then the Pacific Northwest. These are all cities. Miami down here. So you could see, you look at the U.S., everything is really produced in the cities. This is where our economic activity is concentrated. All right, and we'll talk about why that is. What is the advantage of cities in the class? This is our first observation. We're going to try to explain it in the class. Second observation: cities are really expensive. Okay, so this is where all the economic activity is. This is where all the people are. But hey, they have to pay a lot to live there. Why are they willing to pay so much to live in these cities? Now, this rents at least have gone down a little bit with the pandemic, but in general, people still want to live in cities, and they pay a lot to live there. So here are two 2018 prices. And you can see one bedroom apartment, San Francisco, New York, San Jose, Boston, LA. All these things are super expensive to live in. Okay. This again shows your most expensive areas, which are predominantly, along the West Coast here, your nice West Coast areas around New York, and then DC. All right, these are most, and then here's Chicago over here, Miami, Texas Triangle again. And so, cities are incredibly expensive. If you're interested in the most expensive ones, of course, Silicon Valley. These are all Silicon Valley, Honolulu, New York, more Silicon Valley adjacent. The rich part of Connecticut, DC, and then here we have LA. Okay. And then your least expensive areas are, more rural areas. All right. And still metro areas, but these are more connected to rural areas, rural settings rather than this the high economic activity here. That's the next thing we'll talk about. Why is it more expensive? You think, well, the economic activity is higher, people are making more money, that's going to be reflected in the prices, but in many ways this is far beyond what we would expect, just given the fact that people are making more money in those areas. And so we'll talk about kind of the policy that leads to those really high costs in this class. Okay, other thing we're going to observe is that cities are producing all this economic activity. They're expensive. They have lots of things in common. A city here is in many ways similar to another city there. However, they really actually differ in many key areas. So we have a wide variety of cities. And so the transportation system will be different from city to city. Why is that? You'd think like, okay, we have an urban area, one transportation system. We're going to find the most efficient type, use that over and over again. So it differs. How the government is organized. So some cities, some cities have kind of one city government. Some city areas are kind of broken into separate ones. So that differs from city to city. Density, so how closely packed in a city is, and then how diverse it is and how segregated it is also varies city to city. And so again, we're going to discuss like the effects of these and also the origins of these huge differences. Here are some examples. So here you have your London transportation network, the London Tube. And here you have your LA one, and you can see the difference. This one is very dense. You can kind of get everywhere and anywhere, where the LA one is much more spread out. Again, this is going to reflect the underlying density of the city. Sorry, I'm recording this in a warehouse, so if you hear sounds, it's just regular warehouse stuff. So the LA local government, so here you have your kind of your LA metropolitan area. There's this LA County, but the metropolitan area is roughly kind of this whole area right here. And you can see again, its government's very weird. You have LA City, which has this very strange white shape, so it's like mainly up here with a few areas that have seceded, like Beverly Hills, kind of your richer areas that have seceded, Beverly Hills, Santa Monica. Then it has this long little strip that connects it to its harbor. So very strangely organized, again, with lots of little, smaller cities within it, compared to New York, which is, has the boroughs, but it's kind of managed all together by New York City. Okay, and then when it comes to segregation and density, you can see the differences in cities. So this is Charlotte. Each dot I think represents 100 people, and the colors correspond to different races. So the green is black, the blue is white, the orange over here is Hispanic, and then the red is Asian. And so you can see this is fairly segregated city, kind of this being the dividing line. I've never been to Charlotte, but apparently that's how Charlotte is. Here's San Francisco. So again, you can see a different pattern. It's a little more integrated in parts. And also it's much more dense. So you can see that the colors are much more striking, as it's much more dense city. And then if you're interested, here's LA. So you can again see you have pockets of diversity or integration. Culver City is going to be like that. This area, this is 2010, by the way. All these are 2010. So some of these will have actually changed quite a bit. And again, you can see LA has its dense parts, primarily around downtown and Koreatown. And then it's less dense parts. Well, it's pretty dense, surprisingly. Okay, I'm going to take a break there, and then we'll go on to the last observations.